I'll give you the biggest mistake I see for each one. For interviewing, it's because people focus so much on experience and reviews and, hey, this person's been doing WordPress for 5 years, and they don't focus enough on the attitude. What does this person actually care about? Is it money? Is it stability? Is it learning and self-improvement? What does this person actually want? What are this person's values and beliefs? And that's what you should really be digging for during the interview. I can always teach someone to have better skills. The attitude, I've only had one person in my 10 years of hiring that I've actually turned around a bad attitude that I thought was going to fire. Almost every other time I've had to eventually let them go because there's just no fixing it. So focus more on the attitude during the interview process. For onboarding, I think most people know you have to interview a VA, you have to train them, you have to manage them, but most people forget about onboarding them. And if I interview 3 VAs and I want to hire Joe and I want to hire Joe at $5 an hour, don't just say, hey, Joe, you're hired at $5 an hour, let's jump into training. You want to go through an onboarding process where you cover schedule, issues, communication, and culture.
So in this episode, we're going to be talking about outsourcing, and you're going to learn a couple of different methodologies and frameworks that's going to help you become a better outsourcer. One of the things that you're going to listen for is called the SICK method and the BARF method. Yes, I know they both sound really weird, but Nathan Hirsch, the guy interviewing this podcast, is going to talk about that. We get straight to all of the principles. It's a very punchy and short episode. I think it's going to really help you out. If you're looking to outsource, feel free to contact Nathan or myself. We've both been outsourcing for a long time. I've been outsourcing. I have a distributed team, and I've been doing this for over a decade. Happy to answer any questions you have. And depending on the traction of this episode, maybe I'll do Facebook Live or LinkedIn, something like that. We're going to jump straight into the episode. Nathan is legit. He knows what he's talking about. I hope this is very valuable for you listeners. Hey, welcome to the Business Growth Podcast. Today I have Nathan Hirsch, who is currently celebrating an awesome win that we'll talk about. And then we're going to dive into the things that you can do as a business owner to gain the most leverage and help people in our current environment. How about that for a setup?
Love it.
First, give a shout out about this recent win that you guys just had with your previous company.
Yeah, and I appreciate you having me on. So we started FreeUp as just an idea with $5,000 4 years ago, a marketplace that pre-vetted virtual assistants, freelancers that filled requests quickly. VAs could get started right away, had great customer support in the back end, 24/7, and a no turnover guarantee. If someone quit, we would cover replacement costs. And it really started off as a concept that we hated the Upworks, we hated the Fivers, we wanted to build something better. And we were extremely humbled that people liked it and that supported it and told other people about it. And we were able to scale it to doing over $12 million a year 4 years later. And one of our clients reached out halfway through 2019 about acquiring us. They wanted to get into the VA freelancer space. They didn't want to build it from scratch. They had used FreeUp. They liked it. And they made us an offer that we felt was more than fair, if not aggressive. We did a lot of due diligence on them, just like they did on us. We made sure that everyone would be protective. We took hundreds of thousands of dollars of the deal and gave it to our team in the Philippines to make sure they were taken care of and made sure their jobs are secure and no one was going to get fired. And we eventually decided to sell it. So we exited at the end of 2019. We think we created a win-win-win for everyone, and now it's on to new things with my new venture, Outsourcing School.
Awesome. Hey, what a little subtitle to this podcast. Perfect. I think what's amazing there is that, one, you created a win-win-win situation. What I would love to dive into and some of the deliverables of our conversation is for listeners to understand that process you went through, because you mentioned that you had to vet the people that were going to buy from you, and they were going through with you, making sure that you're credible, that you're actually going to perform, and that the people involved, the actual people getting the deliverables, were going to be taken care of. So that same thing applies to outsourcing individuals in your business. And so I'd love to just kind of open the code, talk about Outsourcing School, how you unpack that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big relationships guy, whether it's a client, a freelancer, a partner, my virtual assistant. I never want anyone to feel like I screwed them over. I always try to rise to the top with other people. I mean, I had VAs that started at FreeUp, and I told them up front, like, hey, we're going to start you at $3 an hour. If the company grows, we're going to pay you more. We're going to come up with raise programs and bonus programs. And we kept our word. And by the end of it, people are still making over $20 an hour, and their team leaders and they're working working at FreeUp. So I'm a big proponent of that. And I didn't want to sell the business to anyone that was going to destroy my reputation or burn my relationships or hurt the people that I had spent years and years helping. So for us, like that was off the table if we found any red flags there. And Mark Hargrove, David Martin, the two people we sold it to are great entrepreneurs. They've acquired other businesses. They've scaled businesses way bigger than I have. So we feel like they're the perfect people to take FreeUp to the next level. With that said, it was sad. I mean, saying goodbye to our internal team was probably the hardest thing we had to do. But again, we thought we created a win-win. And I think throughout this process, I mean, growing FreeUp to doing 8 figures with me, my business partner, and 35 VAs in the Philippines, no office, no US employees, we got a lot of questions on how we did it. And we didn't just wake up one day and hire 35 VAs and cross our fingers and hope it worked out. We had systems and processes for interviewing and onboarding and training and managing them and lowering turnover and keeping them around. We had different systems for getting on podcasts, for running our social media. So we're going to use our new venture, Outsourcing School, to educate people how to use VAs. And for someone who's never hired VAs before, I wish someone gave me a blueprint for interviewing and onboarding back in the day. For someone who struggled and had issues, we're going to be able to break it down and simplify it and correct a lot of those issues. And for someone who's managing a lot of VAs, but have all the VAs just reporting to them, we're going to teach you a better structure and how to scale it, or even how to do the crazy things like get on more podcasts using VAs. We're about to launch our next course called Podcast Outreach so that people can get, or Podcast Outreach Formula, so that people can get on over 300 podcasts like I have and value their time at the highest level. And we have some software we're building too that we're going to add in there. So it all kind of comes together, but it's all around treating people well. And we're donating a percentage of all sales to our favorite charity, Teach for the Philippines. We want to continue to be a part of the Filipino community.
Oh man, that's awesome. Okay. So, I want to get into actionable pieces for our audience. Many times that we'll lay out a foundation, but I think where people get tripped up is that they have those common mistakes. And that usually gets in at least a curriculum that's taught after the modules. And so what I'd love to do is address some of the common mistakes that people make before, because there's quick starts out there that are just going to want to go with it. So what are some of the things that you see most people do that are just a big red flag?
Yeah. So we'll kind of break it down into the interviewing, the onboarding, the training, and the managing. And I'll give you the biggest mistake I see for each one. For interviewing, it's because people focus so much on experience and reviews and, hey, this person's been doing WordPress for 5 years, and they don't focus enough on the attitude. What does this person actually care about? Is it money? Is it stability? Is it learning and self-improvement? What does this person actually want? What are this person's values and beliefs? And that's what you should really be digging for during the interview. I can always teach someone to have better skills. The attitude, I've only had one person in my 10 years of hiring that I've actually turned around a bad attitude that I thought was going to fire. Almost every other time I've had to eventually let them go because there's just no fixing it. So focus more on the attitude during the interview process. For onboarding, I think most people know you have to interview a VA, you have to train them, you have to manage them, but most people forget about onboarding them. And if I interview 3 VAs and I want to hire Joe, and I want to hire Joe at $5 an hour, don't just say, hey, Joe, you're hired at $5 an hour. Let's jump into training. You want to go through an onboarding process where you cover schedule, issues, communication, and culture. We call that our SICK method, SICC. So I'm going to sit down with them and say, hey, Joe, I want to offer you $5 an hour. Are you good with that? Let's go through your schedule. Do you have other clients? When you have those clients, where's the overlap? This is what I need. Have you worked graveyard shift before? Whatever it is, make sure we're on the same page. Go through issues, computer issues, internet, power, weather, personal issues, how we handle it, how we communicate. Do you have backup plans? Are you one computer crashing away from not being able to work for a month while it's in the shop? Let's figure out and make sure we're on the same page. We go through communication. Hey, these are the channels we use. It might be different than your other clients. Are you good with these channels? Are you good responding within a business day? Everyone communicates differently. Make sure that you go through that before you just jump into it and then demand it later. And then culture. What are your values and beliefs? How do you interact with the team? What's expected in their communication with the team? And go through all of that. And throughout it, but especially at the end, I give them a chance to back out, because I'd much rather they back out because my expectations are too high or not in line with what they want, than for me to figure that out 2 months down the line. So that's interview, that's onboarding. I'll keep going, but I'll give you a second to jump in.
Sure. There's a couple things on there. One, how do you give them a chance to back out? What does that look like?
Yeah, I tell them. So I hired a VA today for Outsourcing School. We did our pre-sale last week. Now I'm hiring a VA for myself. And I went through everything I just talked about: schedule, issues, communication, culture. And at the end, I was like, listen, like, I think this is a good opportunity. I'm excited to work with you. But if we talked about anything that is not true or confusing or you don't want it, like, either let's talk about it now, or I'd much rather you turn the job down right now. And if you do turn it down right now, that's totally okay. I'd much rather you turn it down right now than to quit on me in 2 months. And I had her think about it for a little bit. And then she said, yes, I'm excited. I want to move forward. And we found that greatly reduces turnover, because what a lot of clients do, and I see this all the time, they have a job post, right? And the job post only has so much information. Then they interview and they give a little bit more information. Then they hire the person, and the person gets started on the work, and the client didn't mention every little thing. They didn't mention how their business runs or what's expected, and the VA signs up for something that they didn't really want to sign up for, and that only leads to issues down the line.
Totally happens all the time. So you mentioned in the beginning attitude. Is there a certain filter process, something that you go through systematically to determine what that is?
Yeah, so we like to ask a lot of questions about them, about what they do outside of work, about their family, about their past jobs, why they like them, why they didn't like them, what they look for in a client, stuff like that, stuff that's around the actual experience and skill set that they have, if that makes sense.
What you're talking about is really systematic approach. I'd say most of entrepreneurs actually don't go about it this way. So is this natural, or is this something you learned from failures? What was it?
This is something I learned from 5 years of really struggling to hire. So I struggled to hire in person for years, hiring college kids, and that didn't work out well. And then even VAs, my first few years of hiring VAs, I hired Chicky Ann, who's been with me for 8 years. I'm the godfather of one of her kids. We have a great relationship. But after that, I made bad hires, and people would quit on me. My communication wasn't good. And I sat down and I asked her, I said, hey, Cheeks, like, you're awesome. Nothing else is working for me right now. What am I doing wrong? And what are your other clients doing that I'm not doing? And she let me have it. She told me, hey, you're sending emails the wrong way. You're too direct. You're too harsh. You're not being clear on communication. You're not training them the right way. And then I learned and I adjusted and I built systems and I built processes. And I think that's what I'm so excited about is hey, these processes aren't like rocket science. Out of all the things you can learn in business, hiring is incredibly important. And it's somewhat difficult, but when you have systems and processes, it becomes a lot easier very quickly. So by using, hey, this is our interview process, this is our onboarding process, right away, you're going to have instant wins.
So I think where our conversation can go kind of varies. You and I talked pre-interview. We've both been outsourcing, hiring people in virtual environments for, over a decade. And on top of that, we're now in this different type of world where everyone's working from home. We don't know what to expect. We don't know what's really happening. It's kind of a different conversation than I suspected a couple of weeks ago when we scheduled this call. What specific advice can you give to people that are starting in this work from home world and really having their eyes open to what the possibilities are?
Yeah. So I've been working from home for 10 years with a quick break to get an office, which was probably one of the worst business decisions I ever made, just adding overhead to a business that didn't need it. But for me, it's about schedule, and it's about finding out the hours in the day that you're the most productive. For me, I'm most productive between like 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. So I make sure that I maximize those hours. And then I do a little mixing and matching. I figured out, hey, I could go to the gym at 4 p.m., but if I go to the gym from 9 to 10, that gives me a break, and then I can come back and be extra productive for another 2 hours. So really experimenting with that schedule. Also buying a dog was probably one of the better decisions I've ever made. It's no joke. I mean, having a dog at home, it gets me out of the house. Like, I just did a 1-hour business call, and I was just walking the dog around my neighborhood. Like, stuff like that keeps you alive. It keeps it from being less tedious. And you also have to commit to just kind of healthy living in general. I feel like it becomes easy to sit on the couch and eat potato chips, but eating healthy as part of your routine, having working out as part of your routine, both things that have helped me personally from a point where I graduated college, I was working from home and had freedom and had money and didn't take care of myself, to now where I'm much more, hey, this is my routine. This is how I take care of myself every single day.
So bring us into this world. Outsource School. You're now starting to teach people, affect more people's lives. I think now more than ever, it's absolutely essential. Let's go through some of the curriculum, what it is, and just full disclosure to our listeners. I'm not compensated for this. I'm not an affiliate. I'm not getting paid. I'm doing this because I think it's valuable and it's necessary at this time. So there's no monetary gain whatsoever that I have from this. This is just to help you guys. So I want them to know that full disclosure.
Yeah. So, and we didn't talk about the mistakes for training or managing. If anyone wants those, feel free to reach out to me. I'm really easy to contact on social media. But so Outsource School is the entire company, and we're going to have different courses. So our first course is cracking the VA code, the interviewing, onboarding, training, and managing. And you're going to not only get our cheat sheets and us walking through the interview, but we actually put in 4 requests on FreeUp, got 4 random VAs, interviewed 4 VAs. So you can see it, some good, some bad. We walk you through it, and then you can go out and interview a VA after you learn our system. Then we teach you onboarding. We take those same 4 VAs, onboard them. We teach you onboarding. You can go out and do it. For training, we show you our SSS method, which is all about valuing your time at the highest possible level. We teach you how to create great SOPs, and we're there to help you along the way. If you write an SOP and you want to send it to us to review, we're happy to do it. And then the management is probably my favorite lecture or modules. We go into how to retain people, and it's not as difficult as people think. What we call our BARF method, which is a funny acronym, but it stands for getting them to buy in, showing appreciation, building relationships, and creating a family culture, which Filipinos are always all about. But it also dives into team leaders and assistant team leaders and creating SOPs for them and how to run meetings and how to give bonuses and raises in the proper way, which a lot of people mess up, in my opinion, how to handle issues if someone's not doing it the right way, how to fire a VA while protecting your business. So it really, that course covers the full thing. And our second course is about getting on podcasts and how to use a VA to do 70% of the research for you using our processes. And then we're coming up with SOP software. So it's going to help you create videos, dynamic videos that will also have text in them to quickly create SOPs for any task that you do to delegate it to other people. So we've got a lot of stuff coming together, and I'm sure we'll continue to think of other ideas to add to it.
Awesome. That's awesome. Okay. So we talked about the course. I wanted to make sure we get that to help out people. They know where to jump. We'll also put a link inside of the show notes. What's the best URL for people to go to?
Yeah, just go to outsourceschool.com, or if you want our free VA calculator, which tells you how many VAs you can afford right now, go to outsourceschool.com/VA calculator.
Okay, cool. All right. Jump over right before we split. Will you cover the training piece? I know there were a couple different, steps we wanted to go over. Let's cover that and then we'll wrap up. And so it's short and punchy for our listeners.
Cool. So the biggest mistake I see is with SOP, standard operating procedures. I think most people know the middle of the SOP has to be your steps. So step 1, step 2, step 3, all of that. Where people mess up is the top and the bottom of the SOP. The top of the SOP, I put my why. I put, hey, this is information about the business. This is what this task has to do with the business. This is why we do the task. I'll even throw in like past VAs I've hired. So I hired a bookkeeper. I had fired 3 previous bookkeepers. I didn't put their names, but I put in, hey, the last 3 people, these are the mistakes they made. This is what I can't put up with. This is what success looks like. So before they even get to the steps, they have that overall picture of what's good, what's bad, information about the business and the overall role. And at the bottom, I call it my do not do list or important reminders. And I'll put stuff, let's say I have a VA monitoring my inbox. I'll say, hey, if my lawyer or my accountant emails me, don't respond to those emails or tell them I'll get back to them. And instead of having 50 steps and having all the important stuff just in step 33 and in step 42, take the most important things, the things you care about the most, and put it as an important reminder at the bottom. And a lot of people that start to create SOPs that way see a lot more success when training virtual assistants.
Okay. And on SOPs, are you doing both text, video, so that you're covering the different modalities and learning processes?
Yeah, so a combination. What I personally do, since I've been hiring VAs for a while, is I do the text and then I have the VA take ownership of the SOP and create the videos and make the text even better. Do I recommend starting off with that? Probably not. I would start off with a document, or I haven't found an app yet that makes great SOP videos in an easy way that's easy to go back to. And that's part of what we're building. There's going to be a video and a text component as well. So we're excited to see how that shakes up the SOP market a little bit.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, because that's a terribly difficult process to do, especially for an entrepreneur that doesn't do it naturally. So for me, I've had to hire consultants. I give them an example of what we do. They consult with us and then they build our SOPs. And then we take that to the team, have the team member go through it, break it, and then work with the consultants on that piece. Because I just simply don't think in that way.
Right. Yeah. I mean, a lot of entrepreneurs, every entrepreneur is good at something different. And every entrepreneur has their 1 to 3 core competencies. And for most entrepreneurs, like hiring systems and processes isn't it, but it's so important. And you see entrepreneurs, like, you wouldn't just market for 3 months and be like, oh, marketing's not for me, I'm not going to market my business anymore. But we see entrepreneurs do that all the time with hiring, especially hiring VAs. They try it and they're like, oh, didn't work, not for me, I'm going to go do it all myself. And you can only grow your business so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Who are the VAs, or who is this for? Is this for people that are just starting out? Is this people that already have traction? Where do you classify that?
Yeah, it's all three. And so cracking the VA code, for example, is 9 hours long. But if you already know VAs, you can skip the first hour where we walk people through the basics. What is a VA, where to hire VAs from, and the things you should know. And it's got more advanced stuff for people that want to learn about team leaders and management and meetings. And that might not apply to someone who maybe is hiring 1 or 2 VAs, and they can add that stuff later. So it really is the kind of that full thing, no matter where you are on the spectrum of hiring.
All right. So listeners, again, full disclosure, I'm not compensated for this. I am just, trying to share something that's really valuable. I interviewed Connor, your business partner, on this podcast. And we're just trying to help you out, especially in this environment that we're in right now, working from home, getting more leverage, helping you. Go to outsourceschool.com. Check out the calculator. Any final words, anything else that we should cover before we split?
Yeah, feel free to reach out to me if I can help you in any way, even if it has nothing to do with VAs. I know this is a tough time. Nathan Hirsch on Facebook or LinkedIn, the real Nate Hirsch on Instagram or Twitter. Connect with me, reach out to me. More than happy to help anyone however I can.
Awesome. All right. I appreciate it. Thanks, Nathan, for showing up today.
Thanks for having me.